Bhagavad Gita is a book of mankind's collected experience of and answers to life's most basic questions. Who I am, from where do I come, what is my purpose and destiny, and most practically, how do I find happiness? These podcasts originate in the lectures of Neil Bhatt, a disciple of Swami Chinmayananda. They are presented here in 20 to 30-minute segments, each covering 3 of the Gita's 701 verses. Welcome to Gita Wisdom for Daily Living.
We have been discussing chapter 10, Vibhuti Yoga, Yoga of Divine Glories. We have been saying in Bhagavad Gita that Bhagavan is hammering this idea that the source of all things and beings is one and the same. No matter what the expression is, whether it's good, bad, or ugly, the source of that being or thing is one and the same. There are no two sources. For good things is one, and for evil is another one. There's only one source, and that source remains existent in the effect. As we have seen, it removes the cause from the effect does not remain. Bhagavan is clarifying this idea, but it is something very similar to any scientific truth or any scientific fact, that someone discovers that truth by inferences or by intuition or by mathematical calculations, then gives out that truth saying, this is the truth about this physical reality. Just as Einstein came up with general theory of relativity and described what the relationship between space, time, and gravity is, but that was just a theory. He mathematically came to the conclusion that this must be the case, that the space and time act fundamentally this way. So that was his theory. All he had was mathematics to prove. Then after many years, they found the evidence. They observed this total solar eclipse, and at the time they could measure how the light travels in the vicinity of sun. And they saw that light does take a curved route, which basically proves the theory of gravity. So they found evidence. So this is how a scientific theory becomes scientific truth. First you know the truth from someone who has realized it. And then you find evidence of that in this world. And once that evidence is found, it's still not the end of the story, because evidence found does not explain to me the complete phenomena, the complete knowledge. For that, I have to experience myself. I have read about Hawaii, I have learned about Hawaii, I was in pictures, I have designed buildings in Hawaiian style, but that still does not make me realize what the Hawaiian experience is. I have to go to Hawaii myself to realize it. So the truth is experienced in 3 stages. One, I get the Sabda Pramana, testimony from someone who has realized it. So as we have discussed, in Vedanta, there are 6 means of knowledge. Prama is knowledge, and Pramana is the means of knowledge, the 6 means of knowledge. Pratyaksa is the best means of knowledge. When I experience myself, the direct experience is the best means of knowledge. In absence of that, we rely on the other 5 which are accepted in Vedanta. Shabda, testimony, is one of them. So far, Arjuna has only experienced the testimonials about the all-pervading nature of the self, ever-existing nature of the self. So he has admitted, have heard from all the great rishis. The rishis were subjective scientists. They realized in their meditations, in their contemplation, the truth is this, Tattvamasi. And Arjuna said, I accepted that. But now he wants to see the evidence of that in the world he lives in. So therefore he asked Bhagavan, okay, I understood it. And I accepted that you said yourself, I am the source of all beings. But in what form should I meditate upon that? Right now I'm not capable of meditating on an abstract idea. An abstract idea of relativity is not possible for me to meditate on. But if somebody can explain to me, somebody can show me an evidence of that, then I can meditate on that. That's why we had that experiment of the solar eclipse. Then we finally found the gravitational wave. So we have now two evidences of Einstein's theory of general relativity. We still, as lay people, do not really understand how the space warps. Because space is a thing in Einstein's theory. Space in our mind is empty, there is nothing there. Something which I see as complete nothingness, science is telling me something there. Space is a thing and it warps. They have still not found what is that thing is. They have hypothesized that it's made up of gravitons, the particles called gravitons. They can find those particles. Till they find the evidence of that, we'll have just hypothesis about what space is. So here Arjuna says the same thing. I have understood the knowledge which you are stating is an hypothesis. Now I want evidence. In what form can I see the evidence of the immanence of the self, the ever-presence of the self? So Bhagavan started explaining, but he gave a verse saying, Aham Atma Gudakesha Sarva Bhuta Ashastitaha. Make sure that you understand that I is the Atma. I am the self residing in the hearts of all beings. That which makes that thing what it is because of me. Sugar is sugar because of its sweetness. The sweetness reveals the sugarness in sugar. If it is not sweet, it's not sugar. So the heart of sugar is sweetness. Heart of all things and beings is the existence which makes it possible for that thing and being to exist in space and time. So Bhagavan said, Aham Atma Gudakesa Sarva Ashaya Stitaha Aham Adischa Madhyamcha Bhutanam Anta Evacha. I am the beginning, middle and the end of all beings. I create my world through my perceptions. My world comes into existence because of the projection of my mind. When I wake up in the morning and I realize I exist, through my perceptions of the world around me, I create my world. That world comes into existence because of my recognizing that I exist and therefore world exists. It comes into being every morning for me because of the consciousness in me. Aham Madhya, the world remains in existence throughout my day because of consciousness in me, which is projecting this world for me. Your world is different than mine, her world is different than his, because we are seeing this world, we are creating this world through our own minds. Bhagavan said, I am the beginning, middle and end of all things and beings which comes into existence. And then we are having an opportunity to take time travel in Puranic age, during Purana's time. So Mahabharata was written probably 1100 years before the common era. At the time, whatever was the common worldview, Bhagavan can only give examples from that. So we are now taking a time travel age where Arjuna and Krishna were having this dialogue. Arjuna asked for form which he can meditate upon as the manifestation of the ever-present, omniscient, omnipresent Supreme Self. Bhagavan starts, Adityanam aham Vishnu. Among the Adityas, I am Vishnu. We obviously have very sketchy knowledge, but say there were 12 Adityas. Aditi sons are Adityas, Diti sons are Daityas, Danu sons are Danavas. Kashyapa was the father of Daityas, Danavas and Adityas. Kashyapa is supposed to have 12 or so wives. The sons make this entire community of human beings and beings that we know. Because Daityas came from the same, at least one parent and another mother. So they're all step-brothers, Daityas, Danavas, Adityas. So Adityas are the sons of Aditi, wife of Kashyap Rishi. Kashyap Rishi is mentioned in Rig Veda. So even today, when you go to temple for a puja, and if you have Panditji doing puja, he will ask you as a Yajman, what is your Gotra? My Gotra from my father's side, Kashyap, that means I'm supposed to be Kashyap Rishi's descendant. From mother's side of Bharadwaj. Let's say if you don't know your Gotra and Panditji asks you, what's your Gotra? The default Gotra is Kashyap. Panditji will assign default Gotra to you as Kashyap Gotra because it applies to all. So here he says, Adityanam aham Vishnuhu. There are 12 Adityas and among them I'm Vishnu. Vishnu is one of the Adityas. According to Vishnu Puran, out of the 12 Adityas, Vishnu is one of them. So Bhagavan said, you can see my presence in the most prominent manifestation. Just as electricity may be everywhere, but it is very evident in a floodlight. In a small light, it may be difficult for me to notice, but in a floodlight, nobody can miss it. So Bhagavan said, I'm giving you the example which is prominent in all categories. So you don't have to try harder. Jyotisam Ravihi Anshuman. So Aditya is also one name for sun. But here among the bright objects in this universe, I am Ravi. I am the sun. Obviously during daytime, the brightest object in this universe for us is nothing but sun. All energy comes from sun on our planet. And it's very visible, it's evident during daytime. Among the bright objects in this universe, I am sun. At least from our perspective, as the earthlings, the people living on this planet. Marichihi marutam asmi. And then all these natural phenomena which we experience, among winds, I'm Marichi. So there are various types of winds, a very gentle breeze, cold breeze, enjoyable, very violent hurricane, thunderstorm. Out of all of this, he said, I am the Marichi, most powerful one. So when the hurricane comes, you should know it's a Marichi who is making it happen. I may not experience the presence of air normally, even though I'm breathing it, but in a room, it feels static. The air condition starts making noise, I feel its noise. But hurricane, nobody can miss it. Or thunderstorm, nobody can miss it. There will be warning, you will be hiding somewhere. So, among the wind gods, I'm Marichi. I'm in charge of these powerful storms. But that happens because of me. Nakshatranam aham shashi. Among the constellations in the sky at night. Only at night I can see those stars. During daytime I only can see sun. Because in sun's light I cannot see anything else. No other stars are visible during the daytime. During daytime he said, if you want to see me, I'm the sun. At night I see lots of twinkling stars in the sky. But the most visible is moon. Therefore, Nakshatranam aham shashi. Among constellations, I am moon. We now know that moon is not a star. However, as Swamiji explains here, it's very appropriate to say Nakshatranam aham shashi because the constellations are noticed by the path of moon. The moon travels through these constellations. And that's how our Namakaran, Rashi, our moon sign. Mine is Vrishchik. That means moon was passing through the Vrishchik constellation at the time. So, moon's path in our old astronomy was very important. And therefore he said, among the constellations, I am Shashi. I am the one who defined all these nakshatras. And then he says, Vedanam Samavedo Asmi. We have among all Vedas, Samaveda is the most enjoyable because it's musical. Poetry is more enjoyable. Poetry is easier to remember. If you can't remember anything, if you rhyme it, you will remember it easily. Samveda, as we have learned from other discussions, is basically the essence of Rig Veda in poetry. Most of Rig Veda riches are converted into poetry in Samaveda, then put to various types of compositions. So the source of Indian music is basically Samaveda. The system of ragas and raginis are created to sing Samavedas, the samanas of Samaveda. Therefore, among 4 Vedas, Bhagavan said, I'm Samaveda. In Samaveda, you can feel the presence of this divinity, the knowledge, much easier than other Vedas. Devanam asmi Vasavaha. Among Devas, I am Indra. In our Puranic cosmology, we are in a Mrityulok, we have one set of standard of living. Then there is higher worlds where the standard of living is much higher than ours. So heavens have the highest standard of living, where if you do good here, then you elevate yourself to go to heaven and enjoy this highest standard of living. But as Swamiji explained, there the haves and have-nots. And among them, the one who is the king of all the heavens is Indra. Devanam asmi Vasava. Among the devas who are the denizens of heavens, people are living in heaven. So nobody is permanently in heaven. Therefore they are called denizens. Denizen is like somebody who has a work permit, or somebody who has a temporary visa to stay in this country. So heaven is always a temporary place for people who go there. I have attained enough punyas so I can go to heavens, enjoy the highest standard of living, but when my punyas are over, I come back to work, back to this world. But the king of heavens is Indra, and Indra is also a position which keeps changing. Somebody is Indra today, somebody does more tapas, he becomes Indra next time. Therefore, the Indra is always in fear of somebody else will become Indra. We have Puranic stories about Indra sending people to break Vishwamitra's tapas. Indriyanam manahacha asmi. Among devas I am Indra. From that cosmic perspective, devas who are the most enlightened beings, among them I am Indra. At the micro level, devas are my senses, and the lord of my senses is my mind. So, Indriyanam Raja is Indra. The king of all my senses is my mind. So, Indriyanam manhacha asmi. Indriyas are of no value if there is no organizing principle of the knowledge which is received through all the senses. Senses are just transferring knowledge from outside observations to mind. Mind is the organizing principle of that knowledge which creates my world. Out of all the perceptions through my senses, I create my world. Bhutanam asmi chetana. Among the beings, I am the thinking entity. Swamiji clarifies, yes, Chetana, he is not consciousness. Chetana, we generally in our vernacular language is called life. If somebody has is there any Chetana, any life in that person? When person dies, the Chetana is gone. But here in this case, Swamiji says, the Chetana is the thinking entity. Bhutanam asmi Chetana. That which makes people to think about their own existence in the world outside is Chetana. Bhuta is being. I consider myself a limited being because of my thinking ability, that I exist as this individual being and the world out there is something other than me. That's my Chetana. That makes me think who I am as the limited being. Bhagavan said, Bhutanam asmi Chetana. Rudranam Sankarhacha asmi. Among the destroying deities who are in charge of destruction, there's destruction happening in this world all the time, there got to be somebody in charge of that. So therefore, our Puranas have assigned deities for destruction. There are various types of destruction. Some are really not very beneficial. Something very useful and I break, it is non-beneficial destruction. But some are very beneficial destruction. I want to build a multi-story building and there is a 2-story house there. We demolish that house first and then build a multi-story building. That was a creative destruction because you want to create something greater, better, higher than what exists. That destruction is creative destruction. So Bhagavan said, I'm Shankara among Rudras. Among the deities of destruction, I am Shankara who makes things better. Samakaroti iti Shankara. That which makes everything even or better is Shankara. Therefore, Bhagavan Shiva is Shankara, is the Lord of destruction. One of our Trinity is Shiva, who is in charge of destruction. Brahma, creator, Vishnu, sustainer, and Shiva, destroyer. Without that destruction, the cycle cannot start with the creation again. Vitteso yakshaha rakshasam. Among the people who are controlling the wealth, I'm Kubera. And Yaksha and Rakshasas are his guardians of wealth. They are guarding the wealth of Kubera. But they are also described in Purana as very ugly creatures. So Swamiji basically comes to the conclusion that our rishis despised capitalism. Hoarding wealth was never prescribed by our rishis. Anybody who hoards wealth becomes ugly in the end. So Kubera is described as a very ugly creature, but he is like the treasury secretary of heavens. So all the wealth in this world, he is the treasurer. And he hoards that wealth by help of Yakshas and Rakshasas. So in Mahabharata story about Yudhishthira going to that lake where he wanted to get water, Yaksha was in charge of saying, I won't let you take the water unless you answer all my questions. Yakshas are the guardian and they go to any length to protect the wealth. So Bhagavan said, among those Vittesas, Yaksha Rakshasam, among the Yaksha Rakshasa, I'm Kubera, I'm the Lord of all the Yaksha Rakshasa. Vasunam Pavakaha Chasmi, out of the 8 Vasus, the 8 seasons. The Vasus are supposed to be the deities of seasons. There are 8 seasons, 6 outside. We have the Vasanta, Grisma, Varsha, Sharad, Hemant and Shishir. We have only 4 seasons here in Western world. In India, there are 6 seasons. Then there are 2 are added, joys and sorrows. 6 seasons outside, 2 inside my internal instrument, in my antaratma. The joy or sorrow. Weather must be very nice outside, but the internal season is not good. I'm not feeling good about myself, then obviously the experience will be different. Experience of the world outside depends on the environment in my internal self. So Bhagavan said, Vasunam Pavakachasmi. Purana said the mouth of Vasu is fire. The seasons are experienced through fire. This life in me, this consciousness in me is fire. So but therefore he said, out of all deities of seasons, I'm fire. Meruhu Sikharinam Aham. This is pretty interesting geography. So Puranic geography is very simple. There is a Meru in the middle, which is the highest mountain, the 7 islands, 7 continents around that mountain Meru. Ganges flow from Meru and each island is named. So if you are in India, it will be Jambudvip. So when you go to temple and Panditji is doing puja, before starting puja, he will establish Yajman's place where he is. So you will see the Panditji will say Jambudvipe if you are in India, Surat Nagare, and then he will pinpoint from which family you are, from which Gotra you are. So it's like a GPS location. You pinpoint where all these punyas are supposed to go. If in America, it's a Kraunch-Dvipe, Richmond Nagare. So there are 7 continents envisioned by our Puranic scientists. Even in our current geography, there are 7 continents. And now apparently they found the 8th one called Zealandia, which is east of Australia, the whole landmass. And New Zealand is part of it. And I think there is a movement to call it 8th continent, Zealandia. So 7 Dvipa in our Puranic geography, 7 continents in our new geography, and the tallest mountain in our new geography is Mount Everest, right in Asia. So it is possible that it is Mount Everest that they are thinking is Meru, because Himalaya will be mentioned again. Himalaya, the range of mountains, the tallest is from Mount Everest. Very likely that they're inspired by the vision of this tall mountain, this geography was envisioned. We'll stop right here. If you find this podcast helpful, please support it by donating any amount by going to the episode's website at neilbhatt.podbean.com or at chinmayarichmond.org. Thank you. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina Sarve Santu Niramayaha Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhave. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.